All right, ladies and gentlemen, sports fans of all ages, welcome to episode number 9 of Season 2 of Behind the Plate Podcasting, your number one source for all related news and scores from across the world of sports. But before we begin with today's episode, if you do go on to enjoy today's news and scores, please be sure to leave a like on this video, comment down in the comment section, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our social media links in the description down below. But without further ado, guys, we will be getting into today's news and scores. Of course, if you all don't mind. Once again, our social media links are in the description down below. Our Twitter is at BehindThePlaySN, and you can also follow us on Instagram at BehindThePlayPodcasting. But without further ado, guys, let's get into your NHL news and scores from around the National Hockey League. We'll start off with the games from last night. Starting off, we had the Arizona Coyotes going into the Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Rangers. They pick up the 4-3 win in overtime. The Boston Bruins beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, They defeat the Boston Bruins by a score of 5-3. Zach Aston Reese getting 2 goals in that game for the Pens. The New Jersey Devils etch out a close one. Despite William Karlsson having 2 goals in the game, the New Jersey Devils defeat the Vegas Golden Knights by a score of 5-4. The Ottawa Senators improved to just about 500 with a win over the Detroit Red Wings by a score of 4-2. Chris Tierney with 2 goals in that game. Alex Ovechkin picks up his second consecutive hat trick as the Washington Capitals defeat the Carolina Hurricanes by a close score of 6-5. The St. Louis Blues get back on the winning ways with 2 goals from Colton Parayko as they defeat the Colorado Avalanche by a score of 4-3 in overtime. My hometown Winnipeg Jets, they went into the United Center in Chicago. They did get the win in overtime off of Mark Scheifele's 2-goal performance there, 4-3 over the Chicago Blackhawks. Laurent Brossoit making 34 saves in the win. And then the Edmonton Oilers are improving to 9-2-2 since the hiring of Ken Hitchcock with the 4-1 win over the Philadelphia Flyers. Moving on to your NHL scores for tonight and later tonight. At the end of the first period, the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators are tied at 1. Matthew Pekka scoring for the Montreal Canadiens. Colin White scoring his 9th of the season for the Ottawa Senators. Just getting underway in the second period, the Florida Panthers leading the Toronto Maple Leafs by a score of 1-0. Alexander Barkov scoring his first of the season, or scoring his 12th of the season on the power play at 19:56. The assists go to Evgeny Dadonov and Mike Hoffman. The Detroit Red Wings are up 2-1 against the New York Islanders, but they are currently on the penalty kill as of late. 16:54 left to go in the second period. Gus Nyquist and Tim Daly with the goals for the Wings, and Anthony Beauvillier responding back for the Islanders. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the LA Kings. The Pens are up 2-0 against the Los Angeles Kings. Matt Cullen and Brian Rust, your goal scorers for that particular game thus far. The Washington Capitals and the Buffalo Sabres are both tied at 2 with just over 5 minutes left to go in the second period. Brett Connolly, Jacob Verana scoring for the Caps. Jack Eichel scoring 2 goals, one of which coming on the power play. The Anaheim Ducks and the Columbus Blue Jackets are tied at 1. Daniel Sprong scoring his second of the season for the Anaheim Ducks. AJ, how are you doing? Good, man. Thank you for watching Behind the Play Podcasting. So as I was saying before, Daniel Sprong scoring his second of the season, the assist to Josh Manson. Marcus Nudavera scoring his 4th of the season, the assist to Boone Jenner. Just getting underway in Nashville, the Nashville Predators taking on the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, that game is just getting underway now. We have a few games, or a couple games coming up later tonight. The Colorado Avalanche playing host to the Dallas Stars, and the Vancouver Canucks playing host to the Philadelphia Flyers. And we have one final from today. The Calgary Flames improved to 21-10-2 with the win over the Minnesota Wild by a score of 2-1. Mark Giordano and Matthew Tkachuk scoring for the Vancouver Canucks. Calgary Flames, and then Jordan Greenway getting the lone goal for the Minnesota Wild. Moving on to your NHL standings as of today's recording, the Washington Capitals hold possession of first place in the Eastern Conference Metropolitan Division with 41 points. They have a record of 19-9-3. The Columbus Blue Jackets have second place in the division with a 17-12-2 record for 36 points in the division. The Pittsburgh Penguins are close behind as well, 34 points in the season for them, 14-11-6. The New York Islanders just over 500. Obviously, they're down right now, but they do have a 14-12-4 record going into tonight's action. as well as the New York Rangers. They also have 32 points. They have a record of 14, 13, and 4 on this regular season stint. So those are the top 5 in the divisions. Again, I will go over only the top 5 teams in the division, and then I'll just name off the last few people in the division. So the Carolina Hurricanes, 31 points. New Jersey, 28, and Philadelphia, 28. So obviously that Metro division is obviously very, very competitive. Moving on to your Atlantic Division standings, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning in first place with 51 points. I believe that is the best record in the league, and yes, it is. 51 points, 25, 7, and 1 on the regular season. The Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously they signed William Nylander, and obviously they are doing pretty good. But obviously they are down to the Florida Panthers right now by a score of 1-0. But they do hold a 21, 10, and 1 record for 43 points. The Buffalo Sabres have a 19, 9, and 4 record for 42 points in third place. In fourth place, we have the Boston Bruins, 17, 11, and 4 for 38 points. And the Montreal Canadiens round out the top 5 with a 16, 11, and 5 record. Ottawa, Detroit, and Florida obviously close behind in the division standings. Moving on to your Western Conference standings. First in the Central Division, my hometown Winnipeg Jets, 44 points on the regular season. That is tied for the best team in the Western Conference as of this recording. They are 21, 9, and 2. I wish they were 29, 9, and 2. In second place, we have the Nashville Predators with a record of 21, 10, and 1 for 43 points. Colorado Avalanche have 40 points in the season, 17, 9, and 6. Minnesota Wild, with the loss to the Calgary Flames earlier today, now have a 17, 13, and 2 record so far this season for 36 points. And the Dallas Stars round out the top 5 in that regard in the Central Division with a 16, 13, and 3 record. St. Louis and Chicago, obviously the season is just getting out but underway. We're pretty much like 20% through the season. So there is hope for those teams to possibly get back into a playoff spot. However, moving on to your Pacific, pardon me. All right, yeah, sorry about that, guys. Moving on to your Pacific Division standings, we have the Calgary Flames in first place. So obviously those signings, James Neal and whatnot, and also David Rittich are in between the pipes for the Calgary Flames, giving them a lot of momentum here. 44 points with a 21, 10, and 2 record. The San Jose Sharks, Tristan's favorite team, obviously, they are holding second place. There's actually a 3-way tie for second place. We'll get into the wild card standings in just a little bit. But the San Jose Sharks have a 17, 11, and 5 record. And as I was mentioning before, the Edmonton Oilers, 9, 2, and 2 ever since hiring Ken Hitchcock as their bench boss. They are 18, 12, and 3 on the season for 39 points. The Anaheim Ducks also tied with 39 points, 17, 11, and 5. And the Vegas Golden Knights round out the top 5 as well with a 18, 14, and 2 record. 32 points for Vancouver, 30 for Arizona, and 24, unfortunately, for the LA Kings. Moving on to your NHL statistics. Your offensive leaders as far as points go, Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon actually have the top 2 spots in that particular race there. 53 points already for Mikko Rantanen, so he is the first player this season to hit 50 points. Of course, his teammate Nathan MacKinnon and linemate Nathan MacKinnon behind him in that regard. Connor McDavid is actually tied for second in points with 48. Nikita Kucherov from the Tampa Bay Lightning with 47. And Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele rounding out the top 5. They're actually tied for the 5th position there with 43 points apiece. As far as your goal leaders go, Alex Ovechkin, obviously he is a very good goal scorer in this league, and he's showing no signs of stopping. 28 goals on the season for Alex Ovechkin. Patrick Laine close behind with 23. Jeff Skinner with 22 from the Buffalo Sabres. Braden Point from the Tampa Bay Lightning with 21, as well as David Pastrnak with 21. So that's your top 5 in terms of goal scoring. There's obviously a lot of 20 goal scorers here. Nathan MacKinnon, Mark Scheifele, Sean Monahan, and Joe Pavelski. Connor McDavid rounding out that top 10 with 19 goals. Your assist leaders, Mikko Rantanen to go along with those 53 points. 40 of them are assists, and that leads the league. Blake Wheeler has the second place position there at 38 assists. Mitch Marner with 35. Nikita Kucherov from the Lightning with 34. And John Carlson rounding up the top 5 with 30 assists. And your plus-minus leaders, Mark Giordano from the Calgary Flames at a plus 20. And it is looks like to be a 5-way tie for second place between Gabriel Landeskog, Jeff Skinner, Ryan McDonough, TJ Brody, and Michael Kempney. They are all rounding out that top 6 there. So obviously, some people are performing good offensively and defensively as well. John Carlson, Elias Lindholm, Kasperi Kapanen, and Colton Sissons a part of that list as well. On to your goaltending leaders, your goal against average leaders. Aiden Hill from the Arizona Coyotes has a 1.81 goals against average throughout the games that he's played during the regular season. Pekka Rinne at a 1.96. Mikko Koskinen from the Edmonton Oilers, a 2.12 goals against. Andrei Vasilevsky, as you can see on the right-hand side there, 933 save percentage and a 2.20 goals against average. And then David Rittich, as I was talking about before, the momentum of the Calgary Flames propelling him to that top 5 goals against average spot. Obviously, save percentage leaders, a 933 save percentage there for Andrei Vasilevsky. Aiden Hill close behind with a 932 save percentage. Laurent Brossoit from the Winnipeg Jets at a 930, as well as Mikko Koskinen from the Edmonton Oilers. And then Pekka Rinne rounds out the top 5 in terms of save percentage. Calvin Peterson, Yaroslav Halak, David Rittich, Fredrik Anderson, and John Gibson rounding out the top 10. And Marc-Andre Fleury not only has the best win record on the season, he also has the most shutouts in the league so far. But we'll just get to the wins right now. Marc-Andre Fleury from the Vegas Golden Knights. He has 18 points so far, or 18 wins so far this season. 18 points. What am I talking about? 17 wins there for Freddie Anderson. He is holding that second position there from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Pekka Rinne from the Nashville Predators and Connor Hellebuck and Louis Domingue all have 14 wins. Again, I'm so used to saying points. Jeez. So Rinne, Hellebuck, and Domingue all tied up with 14 points, rounding out the top 5. 4 goaltenders here: Hutton, Gibson, Jones, and Holtby tied with 13, as well as Craig Anderson also has 13 wins. So obviously there are a bunch of good goaltenders out there for your favorite teams. Let me know your guys' favorite teams down in the comment section down below. Who you guys think will win the Stanley Cup this year? Obviously me and Tristan will be going through the playoff picture around the trade deadline. So stay tuned for that in the near future. Moving on to shutouts. Marc-Andre Fleury does have 5 shutouts in the season. Mikko Koskinen obviously adding on to that 7-2-2 record this season. He's actually tied with Keith Kincaid from the New Jersey Devils with 3 shutouts. And a lot of goaltenders here have two shutouts. So obviously, again, I say there are a bunch of good goaltenders out there in the NHL. So again, only time will tell. So that is it for your NHL news. Moving on to your AHL stats. Let's move on to the games from yesterday. AJ, you are I believe you're a Cleveland Monsters fan. Yep. So we are getting to the AHL news in just a little bit. We're actually on it right now. So from the games from last night, starting off from the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the Rockford Ice Hogs defeating the Grand Rapids Griffins by a score of 3-2. Johnson there with 2 goals, including the overtime winner in that one as well. Moving on to the Utica Comets beating the Bennington Devils by a score of 5-2. Obviously a good scoring effort from the Comets. Moving on to the PPL Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, off of a 2-goal effort from Warniski, they win 4-1 over the Belleville Senators. AJ, tell Tristan hi for me. I will definitely do that. Moving on to the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island, the Bridgeport Sound Tigers defeat the Providence Bruins by a score of 4-3. Michael Dalcole actually getting an overtime game winner, also getting a hat trick in that particular game. And AJ, don't know if you'll be happy about this result. The Cleveland Monsters getting beat by the Rochester Americans by a score of 3-1 last night. Alex Nylander among the goal scorers for the Rochester Americans. Obviously, they have a bunch of pretty good goal scorers on the Rochester team, so look forward to them being in the high standings later on. The Syracuse Crunch went into Place Belle in Laval, Quebec, to defeat the Laval Rocket by a score of 3-2 in a shootout. And the game that I wasn't too happy about, and that I actually got to watch on Facebook Watch, the Manitoba Moose suffering a rather large loss. They got a sound thrashing at the hands of the Toronto Marlies by a score of 7-2, and I believe that Moose game is actually going on right now. If I can get the score for you guys, and then I wanted to cover it later. But yeah, moving on to this game, actually, Manitoba and Toronto. Rasmus Sandin among the goal scorers. Trevor Moore and Jeremy Bracco both got 2 goals in this game. But as far as the game tonight goes, the Moose are down 4-1 with 7:55 left to go in the third period. Let me just take a look at your scores right here. So the Manitoba Moose lone goal, Michael Spacek getting his 3rd of the season. The assist to Peter Stojkovic and Cameron Schilling. Trevor Moore, Chris Mueller scoring 2, and Carl Grunstrom also joining on the scoring party for the Toronto Marlies. So obviously, even though, despite the almost 500 record, the Toronto Marlies obviously do have the goal scorers in their lineup. Sami Niku also scoring in that game last night. Again, enough about me ranting about the Moose. I'll get to that later. Anyways, the Milwaukee Admirals picked up the overtime win against the Texas Stars. 3-2 is your final in that regard. The AT&T Center hosted a 4-3 shootout win for the San Antonio Rampage over the Iowa Wild. Jordan Kyrou getting the shootout winner. And then finally, from the Rabobank Center, the Rabobank Arena, in Bakersfield, California, the Bakersfield Condors defeated the San Diego Gulls by a score of 4-3 in a shootout. Cameron Hebig, Joseph Gambardella, Cooper Marody among the goal scorers for the Condors. Moving on to your games for tonight and already in progress. Saturday night, December 15th. We have an unofficial final. The Bridgeport Sound Tigers with a 5-3 win over the Springfield Thunderbirds. Michael Dalcol scoring 2 goals in that game. Kiefer Bellows also scoring in that one. From the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio, the Monsters and the Rochester Americans are tied at 1. Nathan Gerby scoring for the Cleveland Monsters. Brendan Gooley responding back for the Americans. They actually have 3:09 left to go in the third period. 4:42 left in the third period at the Van Andel Arena. The Milwaukee Admirals leading the game by a score of 4-3. Emil Pedersen has 2 goals in that game, 1 in the first and also 1 in the second. And obviously, the Toronto Marlies actually just made it 5-1. Josh Juris scoring at 12:05 at the third period in Manitoba. Obviously, Michael Spacek, the lone goal for the Moose. The Rockford Ice Hogs and the Texas Stars with 5:27 left to go in the third period. They are tied at 2 apiece. Jordan Schrader among the goal scorers for the Rockford Ice Hogs. Eric Condra and Joel L'Esperance scoring for the Texas Stars. We have an unofficial final in the Bennington Devils game against the Belleville Senators. They scored 3 to beat the Belleville Senators by a score of 3-1. John Ramage, Nathan Bastion, and Michael McLeod scoring for the Devils. Another unofficial final, the Providence Bruins defeated the Hershey Bears by a score of 6-2. Schwartz there scoring a few goals. He got a couple goals in that one. And then former Manitoba Moose forward Mike Scarbosa also scoring in that game for the Hershey Bears. From the Casey Plaza in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, with 4:53 left to go in the third period, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins are up 3-2 against the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Ryan Haggerty actually scoring 2 goals in that one. The Allstate Arena is currently hosting a 2-1 Chicago Wolves lead over the Tucson Roadrunners. Nick Hague and Keegan Colasar Getting the goals for Chicago, Kyle Capobianco scoring for the Tucson Roadrunners. From the Citizens Bank Arena in Ontario, California, about just getting underway. Just under 5 minutes left to go in the first period. Matt Molson puts the Ontario Reign on top 1-0 against the Colorado Eagles. From the Stockton Arena in Stockton, California, the Bakersfield Condors are up 1-0 against the Stockton Heat. Josh Curry getting the lone goal so far in this one. They're actually in the last minute of play there. Still to come later tonight, from the San Diego Arena, I'm just going to call it, the San Jose Barracuda, the 15-3, 1-2 San Jose Barracuda taking on, I don't know what happened to my screen there. They'll be taking on the San Diego Gulls later tonight. Another unofficial final. Okay, never mind. I already went through all of these. Yep. I already went through all of those. My bad, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the divisional standings for the AHL. The Charlotte Checkers currently hold the first place position in the league. I believe so. 41 points. Do they have the best record? Yes, they do. The best record in the league with a 26-1 record so far this season. The Bridgeport Sound Tigers have a record of 15-8-3-1 for 34 points on the season. The Lehigh Valley Phantoms in third place, 15-8-1-1 record for 32 points. The Springfield Thunderbirds have a 13-7-2-3 record in fourth place, and then in fifth place, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins have a 13-10-3-1 record for 30 points through 27 games. Moving on to your North Division standings, the Rochester Americans, obviously first place in that division with a 17-7-2 record for 36 points. The Syracuse Crunch are 4 points behind with 32. They have a record of 15-7-2-0. The Utica Comets, through their 29 games that they played, they're just over 500 at 14-13-1-1. The Cleveland Monsters in fourth place in the division with a 13-10-3 record. The defending Calder Cup champion Toronto Marlies hold the fifth place in the North Division with 11-10-3. It might be 12-10-3-2 with the win over the Manitoba Moose tonight. They will get to 29 points. They will tie the Cleveland Monsters if the Monsters unfortunately lose tonight. Moving on to your Western Conference Central Division standings. The Milwaukee Admirals, 16-9-4 for 36 points, are on top of the division. The Iowa Wild are 14-6-4-3. They have 35 points this season. The Grand Rapids Griffins have 14 points on the regular season, or 14 wins on the regular season, pardon me. Not 14 points. They have a 14-9-2-2 record for 32 points. The Texas Stars are 13-9-1-4. And unfortunately, it's sad to see that the Moose, unfortunately without Jack Roslovic and Mason Appleton in the lineup, are 11-13-2 for 24 points. Moving on to your Pacific Division standings, we have the San Jose Barracuda in first place of that division with a 15-3-1-2 record. They actually tied with the Tucson Roadrunners for 33 points in that particular division. The Colorado Eagles are on top of the third place spot in that division with a record of 13-8-3-1. The Stockton Heat are just 500, 12-12-1-0. And the Bakersfield Condors have the fifth place in that division, 12-10-0-0. Moving on to your AHL scoring leaders. First off, we'll start with points. Brendan Peary has 34 points in 25 games. For the Chicago Wolves, Eric Condra and Corey Conacher following close behind with 30 points in their respective games. Greg Carey and Chris Terry rounding out the top five as far as points go. Daniel Carr from Chicago Wolves has 28. Phil Veroni has 28. There are actually a bunch of people who have 28. Dennis Guranov, Carter Verhage, and Jace Howerluck round out the top 10 with 28 points respectively. Moving on to your goal scoring leaders, I believe, if I can get this all loaded up here. Looks like the AHL.com is going to be kind to me. Yeah, there we go. Chris Terry is leading the league in goals from the Grand Rapids Griffins with 17 points, or 17 goals. Brooks Machek and Trevor Moore are actually tied in goals, obviously off the 2-goal performance last night. Trevor Moore and Brooks Machek have 15 goals, and then a bunch of people have 14 goals. Eric Condra, Reed Boucher, Joel Esperance, Michael Delco, and Zach Redmond. 13s all around here for Brendan Peary, Greg Terry, Chris Mueller, Zach Dalpe, and Andy Andreov, and also Zach McEwen as well, and Kirby Reichel. So scoring is coming in abundance in this league, I will tell you guys that. And we will go to your goaltender stats. Just give me a second. You will submit that, and we will see what the wins leaders are. So Alex Nedeljkovic actually has a 14-win season for the Charlotte Checkers, obviously contributing to their amazing season thus far. Pavel Francouz from the Colorado Eagles has a 12-win season. He's in second place. Landon Bow is in third place for the Texas Stars at a 10-4-2 record. Josef Koronar from the San Jose Barracuda. Troy Grosnick, Scott Wedgwood, Samuel Montembeau, Carter Hart, and JF Berube, all with 9 wins. And rounding out the top 10 is Jordan Binnington from the San Antonio Rampage. Eric Comrie down there at the 14th position with an 8-8-1 record so far this season. Again, feels bad to be seeing that. Moving on to your save percentage leaders. Let's go through that first before we get into the goals against average leaders. If the AHL.com would kindly load those stats, thank you very much. So we actually have a tie for first place in terms of save percentage. Josef Koronar from the San Jose Barracuda and Colin Delia from the Rockford Ice Hogs both have .930 save percentage respectively. Antoine Bibeau from the San Jose Barracuda has a .927 save percentage. Capo Kakinen with a .925 save percentage from the Iowa Wild, and Pavel Francouz with a .921 save percentage, rounding up the top 5. Eric Comrie down there in the top 20, or the top 15 it looks like, with a .911 save percentage. He's actually tied with Andrew Hammond and Mackenzie Blackwood. Let's see, goals against average. Let's see who is leading in that regard. So Josef Koronar, obviously, and Antoine Bibeau are both the top goals against average leaders for the season, both from the San Jose Barracuda. 199 for Koronar and 216 for Antoine Bibeau. Capo Kakinen at 217, Jordan Binnington at 234, and Colin Delia at 243, as well as Vitek Vanek from the Hershey Bears. Troy Grosnick, Connor Ingram, Patrick Rybar, and Charlie Lindgren rounding out the top 10 in terms of that. And I believe, let's go over the rookie goal scoring leaders, or the rookie point leaders so far this season. We'll only go through the top 5 in that term. So Joel Esperance is actually in first place there for the Texas Stars with 25 points. Alex Beret-Boulet from the Syracuse Crunch has a 24-point season for him. Henrik Borgstrom from the Springfield Thunderbirds with 22 points. Troy Terry and Martin Nitas from the Charlotte Checkers round out the top 5 in that term. And I believe we already went through the goalie stats. So that will conclude your AHL stats for now. Moving on to your NFL Week 14 scores and news. Obviously, a bunch of games going on down in the on the gridiron. Obviously, I'll go over the Week 14 finals, and then I'll go over the Week 14 games that will be played soon. So the Tennessee Titans improved to 7-6 with the win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 30-9. Derrick Henry, 238 rushing yards, which is a Tennessee Titans Houston Oilers franchise record. The New York Jets, the butt fumble themselves, defeat the Buffalo Bills by a score of 27-23. Josh Allen had a 90-plus rushing yards for the third straight game in a row. The Cleveland Browns improved to 5-7-1 with the win over the Carolina Panthers by a score of 26 to 20. They have won 2 consecutive home games for the first time since 2014. The Green Bay Packers also improved to 5-7-1 with the win over the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 34 to 20. Aaron Jones with a rushing touchdown for the 5th straight game. The Indianapolis Colts defeat the Houston Texans by a score of 24 to 21. And the Texans, this was their first loss since week 3. So obviously a good season for the Tennessee Titans. Actually, the Tennessee Titans. I'm supposed to be talking about the Houston Texans. Jeez. The San Diego. I don't know. Jeez, I'm screwing up my words, ladies and gentlemen. Pardon me. In terms of that, the Kansas City Chiefs with the playoff berth improved to 11-2 with the win over the Baltimore Ravens, 27 to 24. The Miami Dolphins won their 5th out of the last 6 games versus the Patriots by a score of 34 to 33. I believe that was on a game-winning field goal. The New Orleans Saints clinched the NFC South with the win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a score of 28 to 14. The New York Giants defeat the Washington Redskins by a score of 40 to 16. Saquon Barkley now holds the most touchdowns by a rookie running back in a season in New York Giants history with 13. The Los Angeles Chargers picked up their first 10-plus win season since 2009 over the Cincinnati Bengals by a score of 26 to 21. The San Francisco 49ers improved to 3-10 on the season with a 20 to 14 win over the Denver Broncos. The Detroit Lions defeated the Arizona Cardinals by a score of 17 to 3. Fitzgerald getting the most receptions with a single team in NFL history. I believe that might have been on the Arizona Cardinals. Amari Cooper had 217 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, both career highs for him, as the Dallas Cowboys pick up the 6-point win over the Philadelphia Eagles, 29 to 23. Derek Carr threw 0 interceptions in 8 straight games, the longest streak in his career, as the Oakland Raiders improved to 3-10 over the Pittsburgh Steelers by a score of 24 to 21. The Chicago Bears, with the win over the Los Angeles Rams, they improved to 9-4. Jared Goff unfortunately threw a career high 4 interceptions in this game. And last but not least, Kirk Cousins unfortunately gets an 0-7 career record on Monday Night Football as the Seattle Seahawks defeat the Minnesota Vikings by a score of 21 to 7. Now moving on to your Week 15 matchups that will happen obviously later in the week. I believe there might have been a Monday Night Football scheduled for earlier in the week. Currently in progress right now, the Denver Broncos and the Cleveland Browns are tied at 10 apiece with 41 seconds left to go in the second period. The Broncos dominating in time possession there. It is 1st and 10 on the Denver 41. Upcoming games in the season for Week 15. The Falcons will be playing host to the Arizona Cardinals. The Buccaneers at the Ravens. The Lions at the Bills. The Packers playing the Chicago Bears. The Bears can actually clinch first NFC North title since 2010 with a win. And the Oakland Raiders taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cowboys taking on the Colts. The Skins taking on the Jaguars. The Vikings taking on the Dolphins. The New York Giants hosting the Tennessee Titans. The San Francisco 49ers playing the Seattle Seahawks. The New England Patriots facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're actually 3-11, the Steelers are, versus the Patriots since 2001, including the playoffs. So you would think that the Patriots obviously have the upper hand in that matchup. The Los Angeles Rams will play host to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, they are my dark horse team to win the Super Bowl. Watch them get eliminated first round of the playoffs. The Carolina Panthers playing host to the New Orleans Saints. They have lost 4 straight games by 7 points or fewer. We actually have a couple finals in Week 15. The San Diego Chargers clinch a playoff berth for the first time since 2013 by a score of 29-28. So a very, very close game in that regard against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Houston Texans defeating the New York Jets by a score of 29-22. DeAndre Hopkins, 10 receptions for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns in that regard. Moving on to your NFL standings, if I could kindly get Google to load that for me. Thank you very much. So, moving on to your AFC East standings. The New England Patriots have sole possession of first place in the AFC East at a 9-4 record. The Miami Dolphins are 7-6. The Buffalo Bills are 4-9, and the New York Jets hold the last place division spot with a 4-10 record. Moving on to your AFC North standings. And now we're glitching out. This is definitely not what I wanted to do. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. You might see some buffering for YouTube, as well as a few minor browser misunderstandings here. Actually, you know what? I have the NFL app on my phone. I can actually read you guys the scores right now, or the standings right now, from my phone. So obviously, guys, bear with me. Unfortunately, while that loads, we'll just go down here. You know what? We'll just leave it here. So your AFC East standings, we already went through that. AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a 7-5-1 record in first place. The Baltimore Ravens have a 7-6 record, holding second place. The Cleveland Browns in third with a 5-7-1 record, and the Cincinnati Bengals at a 4-8 record hold the last place spot in that division. Moving on to your AFC South standings, the Houston Texans taking that first place spot in the division with a 10-4 record so far this season. The Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans both have 7-6 records respectively, and the Jacksonville Jaguars hold the last place spot at a 4-9. The Chiefs have first place. They're actually tied with the San Diego Chargers. Oh, here we go. We're actually loading here. So they both clinched playoff berths with their respective wins. The Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers, both at 11-3 records respectively. The Denver Broncos have a 6-7 record, and unfortunately, I believe, yes, they are the worst team in the NFL right now. The Oakland Raiders with a 3-10 record. We will close that, and we will move on to your player stats so far this season. So, as your league leaders for offense goes, Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs has had a really, really good season for the Chiefs, obviously contributing to their success. Patrick Mahomes in first place as far as passing yards go. He has 43 passing yards. Big Ben, Ben Roethlisberger from the Pittsburgh Steelers has 4,227. Matt Ryan has 4,076 passing yards from the Atlanta Falcons. Phillip Rivers from the Chargers has 3,951, and Jared Goff from the Rams has 39-34. Moving on to your rushing leaders, Ezekiel Elliott from the Dallas Cowboys has 1,262 rushing yards. Todd Gurley from the LA Rams has 1,203. Saquon Barkley in his rookie season has 1,124 rushing yards. Philip Lindsay from the Denver Broncos at 967, and Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers has a 926 rushing yard number. Julio Jones leads the receiving yards from the Atlanta Falcons with 1,429 receiving yards. Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs has 1,304 receiving yards. Adam Thielen from the Minnesota Vikings has 1,236 rushing yards. Juju Smith-Schuster close behind at 1,234. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs has 1,220 receiving yards. Moving on to your defensive leaders. Darius Leonard from the Indianapolis Colts has 135 tackles so far this season. Blake Martinez from the Green Bay Packers has 118. Kiko Alonso from the Miami Dolphins has 116 tackles. Anthony Hitchens from the Kansas City Chiefs with a 114 tackles, and then Luke Kuechly, correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, ladies and gentlemen, from the Carolina Panthers with 111 tackles. Moving on to your sack leaders, Aaron Donald from the LA Rams at 16.5 sacks. Chris Jones from the Kansas City Chiefs at 14 sacks. Von Miller at 13.5. Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns at 12.5. He's actually tied with Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings at 12.5. And then moving on to your interception leaders, Kyle Fuller and Xavier Howard both have 7 interceptions respectively. DeMonte Kazee from the Atlanta Falcons has 6 interceptions on the regular season. Eddie Jackson and Alec Ogletree both have 5 interceptions respectively. And now we're going to be moving on to your NBA stats, not only from last night but also the scores from earlier tonight. So obviously we have a bunch of games here, 12 games in fact, or 9 games in fact in the NBA. We'll start off with the Boston Celtics winning their 8th straight game against the Atlanta Hawks by a score of 129 to 108. The New York Knicks defeating a Charlotte Hornets team in overtime. It was a pretty close game, 126 to 124. The Brooklyn Nets defeated the Washington Wizards by a score of 125 to 118. Also, some trade news to announce. I need to recall this from our Instagram. Obviously, our Instagram is at Behind the Play Podcasting. Let me just find the trade. So, the Phoenix Suns agreed to trade Trevor Ariza from the Phoenix Suns to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers. So, I'd like to think that the Phoenix Suns are obviously getting some good talent in that lineup, but honestly, it might be a little late for those trades. But then again, me saying that it's late, even though it's kind of early in the season, actually. So, moving on, back to your NBA scores. The Milwaukee Bucks improving to 19-9 with the win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, I butchered that name. He had 44 points in that game, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 114 to 102 over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Indiana Pacers defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 113 to 101. The Miami Heat got the 3-point win over the Memphis Grizzlies 100 to 97. They also improved to 3-2 on a 6-game road trip. The Denver Nuggets defend home court against the Oklahoma City Thunder by a score of 109 to 98. The Portland Trailblazers defeated the Toronto Raptors, unfortunately, by 6 points, 128 to 122. Damian Lillard, 24 points. He shot 8 of 10 from the field. Kawhi Leonard from the Toronto Raptors also had 28 points on the game. And your last final from last night, the Golden State Warriors defeating the Sacramento Kings by a score of 130 to 125. Moving on to games, your final games, and also games in progress right now. The Utah Jazz unfortunately lost to the Orlando Magic by a score of 96 to 89. The Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Charlotte Hornets by a score of 128 to 100. LeBron James with 24 points in the winning effort. The Detroit Pistons defeating the Boston Celtics by a score of 113 to 104. Blake Griffin, 27 points for him. Andre Drummond also getting 19 points in the win. We have a few games in progress right now with 6:44 left in the fourth quarter. The Houston Rockets lead in the Memphis Grizzlies 92 to 77, so I believe that is a wrap for that particular game. Quarter number 3, 9:41 left to go. The San Antonio Spurs leading the Chicago Bulls by a score of 64-48. 2-point game so far in the second quarter. The Oklahoma City Thunder leading the LA Clippers by a score of 43-41, and the Phoenix Suns are down by 1 point in the second quarter to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 45-44. Moving on to your divisional standings here for the NBA. Let me just load these. Actually, yep. Okay, here we go. So the Toronto Raptors hold the first place spot. Oh my God, NBA.com, please let me do my thing here. There we go. So the Toronto Raptors hold the first place spot in the Atlantic Division, the Eastern Conference, with a 23-8 record so far this season. The Philadelphia 76ers are in second place with a 19-11 record. Boston at 18-11 in third place. Fourth place, the Brooklyn Nets with a 12-18 record, and the New York Knicks with a 9-21 record so far this season. Moving on to your Central Division standings, the Milwaukee Bucks on top of that division by a 19-9 record. The Indiana Pacers, are in second place with a 19-10 record so far this season. The Detroit Pistons in third place with they are 14-13. The Cleveland Cavaliers without LeBron James are 7-22. The Chicago Bulls in fifth place in that division, 6-23. Moving on to your Southeast Division standings, the Charlotte Hornets with 14-15, also the Orlando Magic with 14-15. They are tied in the Southeast Division, so a win for those respective teams would be crucial to determine the standings. The Miami Heat, they are at 12-16 so far this season. The Washington Wizards, after acquiring Trevor Ariza, they are still 11-18, 6-22 for the Atlanta Hawks in fifth place. Your Western Conference standings are as follows: 19-9 for the Denver Nuggets, 17-10 for the Oklahoma City Thunder in second place. The Portland Trailblazers, with the win over the Toronto Raptors last night, they improved to 16-13 on the season. The Utah Jazz, slightly under 500 with a 14-16 record. And the Minnesota Timberwolves hold the last place spot in that division, 13-15. Your Pacific Division standings: Golden State Warriors are on top of that division, 20-10. The Los Angeles Lakers are 18-11. They have the second place spot in that division. The LA Clippers are 17-11 in third place. The Sacramento Kings in fourth with a 15-13 record, and at a 5-24 record so far this season, the Phoenix Suns. And then moving on to your Southwest Division standings, the Memphis Grizzlies 16-12. They have that first place spot in the division. The Dallas Mavericks have a 15-12 record in second place. The San Antonio Spurs are 15-14. The New Orleans Pelicans are 500 at 15-15. And rounding out that top five, the Houston Rockets, unfortunately, at 13-14. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a look at your NBA nightly leaders. As far as points go, Blake Griffin at 27 points a game for him as well. Kyrie Irving with 26 points as well. Clint Capella from the Houston Rockets with 24, tied with Evan Fournier from the Orlando Magic. And then James Harden also with 24 points as well. Your rebound leaders, 20 rebounds for Andre Drummond from the Detroit Pistons. Nikola Vucevic from the Orlando Magic with 19. Rudy Gobert with 13 rebounds from the Utah Jazz. LeBron James with 12, and Lonzo Ball from the LA Lakers with 10. LeBron James leads your assists with 11. Lonzo Ball and CP3 are tied with 10 nightly assists. James Harden from the Houston Rockets at 9 assists, and former Toronto Raptor Jose Calderon at 8 assists so far this season. Your block leaders, Andre Drummond with 5 from the Detroit Pistons. Mo Bamba and Jonathan Isaac are also in the top 5 there from the Orlando Magic. JaVale McGee has 3 3 blocks from the LA Lakers, and Cody Zeller from the Charlotte Hornets with 3. Your steal leaders, Alonzo Ball is in first place with 5, and then obviously Jose Calderon, Andre Drummond, Joe Ingles, and Kyrie Irving all have 3 steals. Your turnover leaders, Aaron Gordon has 6 turnovers this season. Blake Griffin with 5, and DJ Augustine, James Harden, and Kyle Kuzma all have 4 turnovers. 3-pointers made leaders, Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics in first place with 5. Marco Bellinelli, Reggie Bullock, Gerald Green, and PJ Tucker all have 4 3-pointers made. Free throws made, Blake Griffin has 10, Ricky Rubio has 9, Evan Fournier and LeBron James both have 8, and LaMarcus Aldridge from the San Antonio Spurs with 7 free throws made. Your fantasy players with 128, the Pistons with 113, and the Boston Celtics with 104. I'm only going to do the top 3, unfortunately. And also, as you can see on the right-hand side, they actually have more stats right here. I'll get into those in just a little bit. Your rebounds, the Lakers with 52, the Pistons with 48, and the Magic with 48. Assists, the Lakers with 34, Pistons 25, and Hornets 22. Your block leaders, the Magic with 10, the Pistons with 7, and the Charlotte Hornets with 6. They're also tied with the LA Lakers for 6. Steals, the Utah Jazz they have 13, the LA Lakers with 12, and the Boston Celtics with 11. Field goal percentage, the San Antonio Spurs lead in that regard with 60% from the field. The Lakers with 53.3 and the Memphis Grizzlies with 52.3. 3-pointers made, the LA Lakers with 14, the Rockets with 13, Orlando with 11. 3-point percentage, the LA Clippers have actually made the most of their 3-point opportunities at 61.5. The San Antonio Spurs at 54.5, and the Orlando Magic with 45.8. Free throw percentage, 94% for the San Antonio Spurs, 92% for the Utah Jazz, and 88.9% for the Houston Rockets. Moving on to your total points, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid are obviously in the top 3. 870 for Kevin Durant, 794 for LeBron James, and Joel Embiid with 782. Total rebounds, Andre Drummond with 400 rebounds, Joel Embiid to add on to those 782 points. He also has 393 total rebounds, with DeAndre Jordan rounding out the top 3 with 366. Kyle Lowry leads the assist leaders with 289. Drew Holiday with 286 from the New Orleans Pelicans, I believe. And then John Wall from the Washington Wizards with 234. Total blocks, Miles Turner has 77. Anthony Davis has 72. And JaVale McGee has 71. So obviously they are protecting the rim with that. Total steals, Paul George has 59. Robert Covington with 55. And Drew Holiday with 53. Total 3-pointers made, and this is going to be the last one that I go over. James Harden with 99. Stephen Curry with 98, and Kemba Walker with 92. So, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is going to conclude today's Behind the Play streaming podcast. I really hope you guys did enjoy this particular episode. If you guys did go on to enjoy, leave a like on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Obviously, our social media links are down in the description below. Our Twitter is @BehindThePlaySN. Also, follow our Instagram @BehindThePlayPodcasting. With that being said, thank you guys for watching this Behind the Play stream podcasting stream. My name is Nathan, and I will see you guys in our next stream next weekend. Peace, guys.